Hello, my name is Zachary Lurie and I'm a learning designer at Sustainable Screens Australia. And in this video, we're going to complete the travel and transport section. Now I have my carbon footprint preparation checklist handy. And in this section, we're going to account for all the expenditure on fuel, which includes flights, buses, minibuses, runner vehicles, freight, excess baggage. So if you have a look here, I've put in some dummy entries here. And at draft stage, the good thing is that you can put in data based on the estimated spend and then adjust it later with actuals. So let's look at flight entries first. So the flights are divided into three distances. So your short flights are up to 800 kilometers. So that's, Sydney to Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. Your medium length flights are up to 3,700 kilometers. That will pretty much cover every domestic flight in Australia. And then the long haul distances is for distances over 3,700, and that would be most of your international flights. So what you need to do is get access to your flight tracker and divide all of your flights into the short, medium, and long. Some flight trackers will have the total spend already on it and the cost of every flight. But otherwise, at draft stage, what you can do is get the budget line item for the total spend on flights and then apportion it across the short, medium, and long haul flights. Let's go in and have a look at an entry. So the short one here I've got, we'll do that first. So that's distances up to 800 kilometers. You select air travel, commercial flight, click spend, and then put in the amount. Unfortunately, the calculator only accepts flight spend amounts in pounds, so you're going to have to convert from Australian dollars into pounds just for this section. And then you're going to select the distance you're going to travel, which is short, and then click save. You can also input the distance taken, but that can take up quite a lot of time. So the fastest way is the spend. Let's have a look at the medium flight. Again, select air travel, commercial flight, spend, enter in the spend amount, select medium haul, select the class of travel, so economy or business, and click save. And then let's have a look at long haul. So this is for distances over 3,700. Select air travel, commercial flight, spend, put in the details, select long haul, and it will ask you again the class of travel, economy, business, unknown, premium economy, or first class. The reason why it does that is because there's been research that has found premium economy and up, business and first class flights do generate more emissions. Once you get to the end of the production, you'll be able to update those flight details with more details about the actual amount that was spent. If you do have time, you can then also calculate the distances if you know the distances between each of the cities and the regular routes. Now let's go in and have a look at the other forms of transport now that we've done the flights. The next one that we should look at is cars. So when you go into the car section, there are a number of options. So what you need to do is you need to select road travel, select the right region, put in a nickname, cars all, and you'll notice that the cars come in different sizes, large, medium, small, unknown. So this can be very difficult to work out. So have a conversation early with your transport manager or your unit manager and get an understanding of what vehicles the production has hired. And you may need to do some guesswork too, particularly if some crew are being given allowance just to use their own vehicle as well. Now you could input the data here as distance or fuel. The easiest way at draft stage again is to use the spend. So by clicking fuel, selecting petrol, diesel, selecting fuel spend, and then putting the amount in Australian dollars. Now you might have a series of different vehicles, so you might want to put in cars large, cars medium, and then different fuel types. So you might have a number of hybrid vehicles or a number of full electric vehicles. You could put in a separate entry for that. Now, the best way to account for hybrid and electric vehicles is at the end of the production. So get a copy of movement orders or reimbursement forms for fuel, and what you can then do is put it in as a separate entry at the final carbon footprint by selecting road travel, car, You cannot do it with the fuel option, so you need to select distance, select hybrid or electric, and that would be for fully electric, and then enter in the distance in kilometers and click save. It's important that you do log any electric or hybrid vehicle use, because it's a really good point to celebrate the steps the production is taking to reduce emissions. Now let's take a look at the entries for trucks. So this is quite common for your unit, your electrics. Art department may also have a truck that's hired. So you select road travel, then you get the option to choose a truck or a van less than 3.5 tons or over, a HGV or heavy goods vehicle. And then of course you've got more than 17 tons if it's a very large truck. Select that option. Then you can again select fuel. It's most likely going to be a diesel. Select fuel spend, and then you can put in the total spend. Again, at the post-production stage, you can then enter in the actuals. This initial one at draft is just your estimate, and then you can click save. If you have multiple, you have smaller trucks, medium and large, over 17-ton trucks, then you can put them in as multiple entries, and again apportion the spend on fuel across those different sizes. Let's then also have a look at buses and coaches. This is a really good strategy for a transport unit department if they're picking up multiple cast to save on the number of vehicles being used. Again, select road travel, select coach or minibus, select fuel, and again enter in the spend. Again, like many of these entries in this section, if at the end of the production you have time to calculate the total distance traveled, you can then put that in by selecting distance, selecting diesel or electric, and then putting that in kilometers. The kilometer data entry point is more accurate than the spend amount. Now let's have a look at the taxi section. So for taxi, this could include a rideshare as well. Select road travel, select taxi, and select gasoline or petrol or hybrid, and then put in the total distance. In the taxi section, you're unable to put in the spend, so it's really good to get a copy of those movement logs to work out the distance. What you can do early on is if there's a regular route, say from accommodation to the studio or to a location, you can work out what that distance is and then multiply that out by the number of times taxis were used, and then click save. It is a really good option if you can preference hybrid and fully electric taxis and ride shares. That's one way where the production can reduce its emissions. Now let's take a look at courier and excess baggage. Now, on the Albert calculator, there is an option for freight, but the freight section only covers train, sea, and cargo ship. So it would be very rarely used, if at all, on an Australian production. So what you then need to select is courier and excess baggage. Now what this section covers is anything that the production is paid for to be delivered to location or to accommodation or to a construction warehouse. Then you can select the most common would be truck, van, courier. You then need to estimate the weight of the freight. The best way to do it is to do one entry for this for all of the freight that you would be paying for, and then put in the distance. Again, this is just going to be a ballpark figure, and you can adjust this as more data information comes to hand, particularly at the final carbon footprint stage. Now, once you've entered in all of the data from your flights and vehicle use, cars and trucks and buses, you'll be able to see the emissions generated. And the travel and transport section is commonly creates about 50% of the emissions of a production. So whatever we can do to reduce emissions through vehicle maintenance, coordinating movements, setting quotas, minimizing business flights, minimizing flights, setting a small location radius to locations and studios and accommodation, all of these can really impact, reduce the emissions and reduce the spend on fuel and other travel and transport. And that's how you complete the travel and transport section of the carbon footprint calculator.